But at some point, the math is the math.
I think we can do a better job using that information.
It reinforces my belief that I have the best constituents. Hello, Austin. Hello, District 6. Hello, all my wonderful Clawback viewers. I hope everybody is having a great Friday. We are at the end of the week, although I know so many of you watched the show after we finished our live broadcast, and I want to thank you all for tuning in as well. We have some spectacular guests on the show today. I cannot wait to get to them, but I want to do something that we were doing a lot more in the earlier months of the show, certainly earlier in this pandemic, and I think it's time for another revisiting of our COVID dashboard. You all know this is the city's website, austintexas.gov/COVID-19. Some new information, Halloween information. So if you're looking for guidance from our public health professionals on how to best handle Halloween, you can find it on the city's website, austintexas.gov/COVID-19. And then, of course, our dashboards. Here's the one we know and love. Maybe not as loving it as much now as we were before. You can see we've got an uptick in these hospitalizations. It's not great, y'all. We were doing so good. And I think many of us are still doing so good. But, of course, the governor has inserted himself again. We have now more erratic guidance coming to our community. Williamson County Judge Gravel has decided to let bars reopen. Travis County Judge Bisco has decided not to let the bars reopen. So once again, those of us in District 6, 1 foot in each county, have a very bizarre reality we have to deal with. Please take care of yourselves. Please continue to wear those masks. Please encourage your friends and neighbors to do the same. And I know parents, you dealing with the school districts, and they are doing their best, trying to make the best of really a very difficult and challenging situation. But we want to make sure that we don't continue to exacerbate these hospitalization numbers. We don't want to get back up into stage 4. We got to get this curve turned back around. And I know you all are going to do a good job at that. Also, flu vaccine, make sure to get your flu vaccine. You can find that, again, resources for that on the city website, austintexas.gov/COVID-19. But I want to get to my first guest. I am so excited that she is gracing this show and District 6 with her presence on the Clawback today, the unbelievably amazing Christina Tinzun. Christina, hello.
Hey, how's it going? I love your background.
Thank you. Well, thank you for taking time out of your ridiculously busy schedule to join the show this morning. First, before we get into it, how are you doing? How's your family? Is everyone safe and healthy?
I am not sick. I'm not unemployed. And as a light-skinned Latina, I'm not on the front lines of police brutality. So given the global circumstances, I'm doing just fine.
That is the most well-rounded answer you could give at this time. We're dealing with multiple pandemics, if you want to say one is viral and one is systemic. Tell us, oh my gosh, where to begin? You ran for the Senate. I want to talk about your experience doing that, but also your work with Jolt. You founded Jolt. You're the current chief strategic officer, chief strategy officer, I think is the title. But why don't you tell folks what Jolt is and what y'all have been up to?
Yeah. So actually, I wanted to start off where Jimmy and I met, if that would be okay.
Ooh, tell a story.
So you and I met in 2014, your first city council run. And if folks can, I'm sure folks do remember the very colorful, borderline Looney Tunes guy that used to hold the position before. And we were so excited. I was running Workers Defense Project at the time. And we got to do a candidate forum with you. And the bar was like, Jimmy is an incredible council member, but the bar had been lowered so much for the district by then that we were like, he's sane. Oh my God, he's amazing. And he's not a bigot. It sounds so great. So that's where you and I met, when you and I were younger. But after that, I launched Jolt the week after the 2016 election, after I stopped crying. And its mission really was and is to harness the power of young Latino voters to be a shock to the political system of Texas and the entire country. And we are starting to see that because we have record-breaking turnout this election of young voters, of Latino voters, and really changing Texas so much of it comes down to the power of our community. Look, I believe that democracy has always been and perhaps is the greatest tool to foment change. And after the 2016 election, I just felt so sad and emotionally devastated, especially as a Latina, as a child of an immigrant. My partner's a dreamer. And so the thing that seemed like the best way for me to fight back was to bring young Latinos together in Texas to recognize their own power. Because if we came out and voted, we wouldn't just change the politics of Texas, but it would reset the political map of the entire country. So that's been JOLT's work and mission since November 2016.
Well, it's been a really important mission, and thank you for your vision in starting that initiative and for all the hard work. But I'm really interested to hear how the work has evolved this year. Speaking as someone who's on the campaign trail, I can't really go out and knock on doors the way we used to. And you certainly don't get to go to all the neighborhood meetings and all the cultural events and all the things you used to get to do. So how has the work evolved, reaching out to Latino voters and encouraging them and educating them to vote?
So JOLT in 2018 was able to knock on 40,000 Latino voters' doors. This election, JOLT is reaching 80,000 Latino voters' doors. We're still going out and knocking on doors. We're just not able to do it as much. Usually with infrequent and low propensity voters, we would knock on their doors 4 to 5 times to harass the shit out of them to get them to go vote. In this election, we're just able to do pass-bys and literature drops and then really use the power and tools of technology. I will say that I think the Latino community in particular has been really devastated in this state by COVID-19, and people are desperate and hungry for change. Our community is reeling both from the health and economic impacts of COVID-19 at a totally disproportionate rate to our population in the state. And so that's driving people out in droves to go vote. And even with all of the barriers that people like Ken Paxton and others have put in place to make it difficult to register to vote, people have been at home, and many people of their own volition have registered to vote because we don't have online voter registration and you usually have to do it in person. The groups like Move Texas, JOLT, Texas Freedom Network, these youth organizations are breaking records, not just in Texas, of youth voter turnout and participation. And you have to remember that most Latinos are young in Texas. We're the youngest ethnic group, but we have broken the record across the country. No state has as much voter youth turnout as Texas.
That is so exciting. And I think it's evident in the turnout that we're seeing over the last 2 weeks. The numbers, I'm waiting to see what the numbers look like at the end of next week, because a lot of the comparison I think is weird because it shifted a week up, because we had 3 weeks of early voting this year, which we've never done that before as a state. And so there's a lot of really interesting numbers to be driven out of the turnout. But I'm curious what you're hearing from your constituents, what you're hearing from your audience at JOLT about what they're excited about and what they're seeing. I really would love if you have insight down the ballot, because I think a lot of folks are paying attention at the presidential level, but the congressional race, the state house races, the city council races, they're very important. And they in many ways have more to do with the future of our nation and our city than even the presidential race does.
Yeah, I mean, look, what's also on the ballot this year is the fact that we have the opportunity to flip the Texas House, and they're going to take up redistricting. We're set to gain 3 new congressional seats in Texas if we actually all get counted in the US Census, which is TBD. But that's going to set the political trajectory and course of our state for the next decade. And as the biggest battleground state in the country, that's no small prize. Our big thing at JOLT has been trying to make people go down ballot. In our community, we have so many young and new voters, and Republicans knew that. And that's why this election, they got rid of straight ticket voting. I want to say first, I think there's some myths about the Latino community. And I was really excited to talk with your all's audience about this, because I get asked all the time about what I consider myths in our community. One is that we're conservative voters, and that's not the case. The vast majority of Latinos vote for progressives, and those numbers are only increasing. So here in Texas, I think we can expect roughly 70 to 75% of the Latino population to vote for progressive and Democratic candidates. And that's why we need to make sure they go down ballot. The other things are that people believe that Latinos are single issue voters, that we only care about abortion. And that is not true. The data is really clear that amongst all communities, white communities and other communities of color, there is a cohort, but it's a small cohort that vote on abortion only and are single issue voters. And that is a very small percentage of the Latino population and not really distinguishable from other communities, ethnic groups. And the last one is that the Latino population is actually very homophobic. And for me running Jolt, it was a funny question to be asked, because actually young Latinos, survey after survey, identify as the ethnic group that is most queer. So 1 in 5 young Latinos identify as queer under the age of 30 in the United States, and no ethnic group identifies as LGBTQ or gender nonconforming as much as the Latino population.
That's so interesting, and thank you for detailing and debunking some myths on the callback today.
People wonder about it. So
well, I mean, debunking bad information was the genesis of me even starting this show, because you just get a lot of bad info out in the community. You've got to have a way to dial it back. And it's so interesting to hear that about the LGBTQ community. Obviously, I'm the first openly gay man to serve on the Austin City Council. So very interesting to hear that perspective on the community. We're nearly out of time, Christina, and I would have loved to spend a lot of time and learn about what your experience was like running in the primary and running for Senate. But I mostly just want to thank you for continuing to push yourself out there in bigger and better ways. Running for the Senate is no small task, and it was really inspirational. And I had many, many, many friends in Austin, certainly, who were big fans and continue to be big fans of yours. And I'm certainly a fan and thankful that you came on the show today. Before you leave, why don't you tell folks how they can support Jolt? Where do they go for more information?
Yeah, so folks can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter at Jolt Action on any of those platforms, or go to jolttx.org and sign up for our email listserv. And just thank you, Jimmy, for highlighting the importance of the Latino vote. It takes every community to flip Texas, but it's definitely not happening without Latino voters. So thank you for uplifting our voice and the issues that impact our community.
Thanks for being on the show, Christina. Good luck.
Thanks.
She really is doing some amazing work with Jolt and had a very inspirational Senate race. I'm sure that it won't be the last time she runs for office. We'll have to see where she goes from there. But let's go on to our musical guest. Always my favorite part of the show. How could it not be everyone's favorite part of the show when we are in the live music capital of the world? And so I want to welcome this week's musical guest, Bobby Cheatham. Hi, Bobby.
Hello.
Thank you for joining the show and sharing your talents with us today. Before we get into it, how are you doing? How is everybody healthy? Everybody doing okay?
Yeah, everyone's good. My daughters are very healthy. I'm doing great. And my daughter just had her 7th birthday. So we are very fortunate and grateful for that.
Wow. Young children. I mean, we've had a few folks come on. We've had school board members come on the show and talk about the very challenging conflict it puts parents in, and who's doing home education, who's going into the classrooms, but at the same time, trying to juggle 2 different bands that you are participating in, that you are involved in the middle of all this, where we're not doing live performances. Bobby, how are you doing it? How are you surviving this juggle in all of this crazy time?
Well, I think they all kind of exist and complement each other. I mean, frankly, without the bands and the creative outlets, I might be going crazier than I am right now. So I really kind of see it as a part of the puzzle that kind of fits in. Terms of juggling it all, I don't know, giving up things that don't really serve the calendar, trying to stay as healthy as possible. So I need less sleep so I could work later or earlier as needed to catch up on work duties or parenting duties or school duties or, band duties. So I think it's all part of it.
Well, tell me a little bit more about your 2 bands. They're very different.
Absolutely. So I have Bad Birds that I'm a part of with a great group of guys. We're an indie rock band that formed late in 2019. We put out a couple of EPs in the fall of 19, and we just released our third EP on October the 2nd called Rebos Roulette. And then the other band that I'm in that I'll be doing a song from today is called AI, and it's very much a synth pop band. So I grew up loving 80s music and loving 90s rock, and I decided to just create a band because sometimes ideas happen and songs come out and they belong in one space and not another. So at least I have two traps to hopefully capture ideas and put them where they belong.
That's so cool and so great to have. I mean, impressive to have the type of creative talent that has so many different outputs, but then to have both bands in there, that's pretty awesome. Obviously, we've talked a lot with the folks about how COVID and the pandemic and the challenges and the reduction in live performance has changed the experience of being a musician. What has changed for you, and how are you approaching music differently in this insane, crazy time?
I think that certain things have gone away and certain things have appeared, So for example, practice is not really an option for four guys in a 400 square foot room anymore. So I've spent a lot of time on press relations, and I've followed the guidance of people like the Austin Music Foundation, who's done a great series over the last 6 weeks on local artists and how they can improve their press relations. The reality is a lot of bands put in everything to the art and they know nothing or they care nothing about getting it out there, right? So seen some success there. This song I'll play today got played on 101X Homegrown Live with John Laird 2 weeks in a row, and that was really exciting. So there was some gratification there. I think the other thing that's happened is there is no performing, obviously. And although we'd love to be at Cheer Up Charlie's playing to a room full of people, it's just not possible right now and not responsible right now. So we've shifted some of those duties over to promotion. So really focusing in on Spotify playlist promotion, focusing in on college radio and community radio, as well as music blogs, but not really the music blogs as much right now, mostly just Spotify playlist marketing. And some of that's showing some results as well. I mean, tens of thousands of streams on Spotify, which hopefully kind of back to a whole picture scenario when things come back around 12, 18 months, however long it takes, don't know. But we'll have a greater audience. We'll have greater material that we've put out in that short period of time. And the live shows will be that much more meaningful. But not having the live shows, I mean, we're basically drinking non-alcoholic beer over here. It's not the real thing, but it is nice to have some return and to get some better audience generation and things like that.
Well, it's an interesting point that you bring up. I'm glad to hear about the Austin Music Foundation's workshops. One of the things that we've talked about on the policy side, on the city side of things is, what is the market, what is the industry that surrounds our musicians that can create enough income to sustain a quality of life while you're creating and adding and contributing to that quality of life. So it's great to hear that those resources are available, and hopefully other musicians are taking advantage of that. Some folks are taking a pandemic to learn how to bake bread, and I think musicians are taking the pandemic hopefully to learn how to make bread.
Exactly.
Did I say that right? Am I using my metaphor wrong? Anyway, you get it. That's great to hear. I'm so glad that you're taking advantage of the resources that exist in this community. I am very excited to hear about the song you have prepared for us today. Why don't you tell us about the song and then go ahead and take it away?
Sounds good. So I wanted to first acknowledge Liz Fieser, my bandmate and co-writer. She's out of town, not available today. But this song is called Prosper Park. And we got together and we started talking about themes. Everything comes down to themes and moods for us. And for themes, we wanted something pretty universal. We felt like we're in a time right now where there's a lot of division. Everyone's feeling it. So we chose the most memorable romantic experience that anyone had had. And so we thought that was pretty universally relatable. And then in terms of mood, it seems like everyone's a bit on edge or cooped up and got cabin fever. So we wanted something a little bit dancey. So the dancey may not come across without the synths and the drum machines, but hopefully the theme still registers. And the song's called Prosper Park. It's 99 by noon. You in another room. There's no heat like Augustine. Sit next to me. Electric skin. Feeling a dream pulling me in. Never felt so young. Now it's been so long. Take my hand to Prosper Park. Take me under, get what you want. No talking it over, follow the spark. Laying in clover, playing with hearts. And when it gets dark, I still feel it. We set the plan to sneak off that night. Left the crowd, just you and I. I'll never forget. I only lose once. You gave it all, I'm wanting more. Never felt so young. Now it's been so long. Take my hand to Prosper Park. Take me under, get what you want. No talking it over, follow the spark. Laying in clover, playing with hearts. And when it gets dark, I still feel it.
Yeah. That was awesome. That was so great, Bobby. Thank you for sharing your music and sharing your talent with us on the show today. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find your music and where they can see any of your live streams or your work going on right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Facebook and Instagram seem to be the best places for people to keep up. We'll be releasing a new single here in 3 weeks called Rosie, so be on the lookout for that.
Fantastic. Congrats on the new single. Everybody be on the lookout for that. Bobby, thank you so much for sharing some time with us today on The Clawback. I know I say it every time, but I just love that we bring musicians onto the show. And as I've said prior, we treat these musicians as professionals. We always pay them for their time and their talent coming on, and no better time that is important than in this pandemic when they're all trying to make it and trying to survive. Let's bring on our last guest. Very excited to talk to this person from an organization that I actually was part of the initial set of members. And a lot of people don't know that, but you're going to learn about it now. We welcome to the show, Cesar Acosta. Hi, Cesar.
How's it going, man?
You know, I think we're all doing about as well as we can handle, trying to survive. Thanks for coming on to the show. First, before we get into Aura, how are you doing? How is your family? Everybody safe and healthy?
Yeah, we're all working, celebrating, and organizing as remotely during a global pandemic, 2 weeks out from a national election. So a little stressed, but I think we're all doing well,
Yeah, I think a little stress is underselling what we're all going through right now. But you are the current president of Aura. why don't you tell everybody what is Aura?
Great. Yeah. So Aura is a urbanist collective organization that is completely member driven. And what that is that we are just regular people. Like, none of us are paid staff. None of us are really experts in any kind of capacity. What we are people that are essentially big nerds for things like transit, housing, park distribution, and really just care deeply about what this community looks like and how the urban form for the city develops and how that affects the people who live in it. So we've been around since about 2013. And it's funny because the Aura started, like you said, with yourself and a few others, around the idea of urban rail. So Aura originally stood for Austinites, the Austinites for Urban Rail Action. And after that, we just grew to have a broader encompassing set of values concerning better connectivity, better sustainability, more affordability, and equity in the city. And so today, Aura as a moniker is just kind of a holdover from that. And what we stand for today is really just an Austin for everyone. And yeah, that's who we are.
It is great. It's been great to see the evolution of the group, because while we're going to get into Prop A and Project Connect here in a second, but acknowledging that none of these issues that we face as a city, be it affordability, be it traffic, be it systemic racism, none of them are solved by a single policy. These things really do interlace, and they interact with each other. And as it's just how it works. We just got to do all the things better. And that's just the reality. I'm glad to see that Aura has taken that on.
No, it's been real interesting because Aura, the first time around, so in 2014, when the vote came, are we going to support or not support it? Because it didn't align with those values. The plan at the time was not something that was going to connect the city in an equitable way. It wasn't going to provide for greater density. It wasn't going to provide for better urban form or better quality of life for the people in Austin. So we've actually voted against the last iteration of the rail. And so what's been interesting is, just as people have come on board and gotten more involved, the things that we've been interested in have really coalesced around themes of making sure that we are providing greater connectivity. And that's taught me a lot about, the connections between parks and trail usage, how those trails connect or don't connect to the bus routes that we use, how those impact the cost of living in different areas, and how those are distributed. And in the grand scheme, the larger scheme, over the next 30, 40 years of the city, why the policies that we support really need to be enacted now as opposed to later.
It's such an interesting fact that I think people forget. They assume that this debate over transportation has two clear sides, and they always say the same thing and they always fight. But in Austin, that's just not been true. Aura is not the only group, but it's definitely maybe one of the loudest that is not going to support something if it's not the right thing. And what I've been really excited about, I've been a policymaker during the evolution of this version of Project Connect. So I've been able to help shape and guide to ensure that it is the big comprehensive system, that it is ready to handle the future, the multi-generational future, not just the next 5 years, but we're talking for a long time, and that we're setting ourselves up for success. The folks who watch the clawback are very familiar with how Project Connect benefits far northwest Austin. The improvements to the Red Line, which are the first improvements to happen in Project Connect, improvements to commuter service, future park and rides out in the Four Points area. But why don't you talk about some of the other benefits that Project Connect brings to the region?
Sure. And so I think a lot of people, when they hear about Project Connect, hear about the orange and blue line, which I think have been the center point or center focus for Project Connect. And that's, the orange line is what's going to essentially replace the 801 and 803 lines as they exist right now, going down Lamar all the way down to Manchaca. The blue line would go from downtown to airport. And in the middle of those, there would be a downtown tunnel, which would go underground and kind of allow for surface walking above and transit connectivity below. And I do want to focus not so much on those lines, because the urban rail is exciting and it is going to move people effectively and consistently without having to be impaired by traffic. But this plan also includes new rapid lines, which within the first 4 years of the project would connect bus rapid transit east and west, which we desperately need to try and be more equitable in how we're moving people around the city. It also electrifies the entire bus fleet. So we're talking about really reducing our carbon impact. The city just is in the process of passing our climate action plan, and this goes a long way to reducing the carbon emissions of the city, the largest percentage of which come from transportation. And then the thing I'm most excited about is that the city has committed to $300 million of anti-displacement funds that go along with Project Connect. So one of the big fears of new rails and new line developments and stations is that there would be displacement, gentrification that would occur from the creation of this project. And the fact that the city not only recognizes that, but was willing to do something about it is just incredibly exciting. And that's $300 million that would be, coming in for that purpose specifically. And what Prop A would do is create, everyone talks about the tax, and it's only 4%. I've heard things as wild as 25%, but really that money isn't just for this project. It's an ongoing fund, meaning that we've deeply committed to transit and moving people in better quality of life for the long term. And that is, I think, what I really want to drive home to people is like, this is not just one time. We're voting for the future, for the foreseeable time, next 20 years. And that's so important.
I talk about that a lot. What you see in other communities often is a big capital investment up front, but they don't really talk about the long-term costs of operations or capital maintenance and renewal. And they find themselves 30, 40 years later kind of upside down and not able to really provide the service that they promised. But we are not making that mistake in Austin. We are using a sustainable funding source that ensures that this system will be operational at a high level, be able to serve the community moving forward, and with an independent, the Austin Transit Partnership, which is the independent body to help oversee that construction and try to get at least a little bit of arm's length away from the cycle-to-cycle politics and really think about the long-term benefits as the project moves forward. I'm very excited about it, and I hope everybody votes for Prop A. If you're in that last 30 to 40% of folks who are waiting for the last week of early vote or waiting for November 3rd. What are you waiting for? Get yourself out to the polls. There are no lines, and make sure you go all the way down that ballot and vote for Prop A and all of the down ballot folks. There's school board races, all kinds of stuff going on down there. Aura, Cesar, I want to thank you and Aura for your endorsement, because you've endorsed my campaign with a few others, and you're actually out at the polls distributing your voter's guide, making sure that folks know which candidates really are thinking about the future and thinking about who's making the right investments to ensure a sustainable future.
Yeah, and you're a big part of that, Jimmy. Like, as you said, you were one of the founders of our organization, but more than that, you just get it. There are exactly one renter representing us on the city council, and that's you. And you've been a firm advocate on housing, on transportation, and really practically discussing how we get those goals. And that's so important to us. And you've shown up. That's a big deal. Like, you came to our candidate forum, you spoke to us, you've come to past events where we've just wanted to ask you questions and barrage you with a bunch of nerdy statistical data, and you've come with answers to that. And that means the world to us that you are not only someone who's willing to do the work that we see is so important and that your values align with us, but that you're one of us. You are actively someone who is part of this group of people in Austin who represent the majority of the city, renters. And I feel get left out of the political conversation far too often, and you do not do that. So thank you so much for that.
Thanks, Cesar. Now, when I was elected and started serving in 2017, I was the only renter on the city council, but I have two more renter colleagues joining me, Councilmember Ellis and Councilmember Harper Madison. And so we're seeing, in a city that is majority renters, we're seeing a little more equitable representation on the council. And I think that's why we're seeing really good future forward thinking policies coming out of this council, and not the small policies. It's too late for small ball. We got to do the big stuff, and that's exactly what we're doing. Cesar, thank you so much for spending some time with us today and joining the show. Why don't you tell folks where they can learn more and how they can get involved with Aura?
Thank you, Jimmy. Please reach out to us on Twitter at AuraATX, or you can visit us at aura-atx.org to join us. And like you said, we are at the polls. So if you feel that getting people like Jimmy elected and make sure that things like Prop A and Prop E pass in Austin, we need all the help we can get to make sure that voters know about it. So hope to hear from you all soon.
Alrighty. Thank you, Cesar. All right. We are at the end of the show. Gosh, these shows go by so quickly. I want to bring up just my I've done this a couple of times. I think it's really good. It's time to vote, y'all. It's time to vote. We've had so much voter turnout. The Williamson County is crushing it, fighting with, I think, Collin County or Denton County maybe for the top spot in the entire state of Texas for voter turnout. You're doing a great job, Williamson County. Everybody get out to the polls. You have 1 week left of early vote. And then, of course, you have on Election Day, Tuesday, November 3rd. Get out there, vote. Do I have to say it louder? Vote! Vote! You can do it, Austin. Let's turn out. Let's get as much voter participation as we can. And we'll see you on the other side. Thanks, everybody.